What if the most powerful healing substances on Earth were not developed in a laboratory, not discovered by a pharmaceutical company, not sold in a bottle for $40 on a shelf somewhere, but were instead so small you could hold 1,000 of them in the palm of your hand? Seeds. The ancient world understood something about seeds that most of the modern world has completely forgotten. These were not just planting material, they were medicine. Nutrition so concentrated that a single tablespoon of certain seeds could deliver more healing compounds than most people consume in an entire week of modern eating. Today, we are going to walk through 10 seeds that appear directly in biblical scripture or in the ancient healing traditions of the same world the Bible describes. And what modern clinical research keeps finding about each one is, in many cases, genuinely difficult to explain as coincidence. Stay with me because number 4 on this list was so therapeutically significant in the ancient world that it was formally measured and taxed as a temple commodity. And number 2 is something Jesus himself named in a parable, not because it was common, but because what it does inside the human body is almost impossible to believe from something that small. Let us get into it. Number 10. Flaxseed. The seed that fed the linen culture and healed the body behind it. Flax is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history. Linen, the fabric of priests and kings throughout biblical scripture, comes from the flax plant. In Exodus, the priests of the tabernacle were clothed in fine linen. In Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman seeks out wool and flax as the foundation of her household. This was not background scenery. Flax was so deeply woven into the fabric of ancient life that the people who grew it, harvested it, and wore it also ate it every single day. And what they were eating without knowing the science behind it was one of the most nutritionally complete seeds in existence. Flax seeds contain 3 distinct categories of compounds, each one targeting a different pathway of health simultaneously. The first is alpha-linolenic acid, an omega-3 fatty acid that helps regulate inflammatory signaling throughout the body at the cellular level. The second is a group of plant compounds called lignans, which provide antioxidant protection while also supporting hormonal balance. Flaxseed contains more lignans than any other food on Earth, by a significant margin. The third is soluble fiber, which directly feeds the beneficial bacteria living in the gut and produces short-chain fatty acids that reduce intestinal inflammation over time. Clinical research has associated regular flaxseed consumption with improved cardiovascular markers, measurable reductions in blood pressure, greater metabolic stability, and lower levels of LDL cholesterol. Studies have also found associations with reduced markers of oxidative DNA damage, suggesting that the protective effects reach all the way into the machinery of the cell itself. The people of the ancient world who cultivated flax for cloth were simultaneously feeding themselves something that modern nutritional science considers one of the most complete seeds available. Traditional use was simple. Ground flaxseed mixed into bread dough, ice stirred into porridge, or pressed for oil used in cooking and on the skin. The grinding matters. Whole flax seeds can pass through the digestive system without releasing their nutrients. Ground or pressed is where the medicine lives. Number 9. Sesame. The seed of immortality that built ancient medicine. Open sesame. That phrase comes from a story. But in the ancient world, sesame was not a fairy tale. It was a foundational crop across Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the broader Near East for thousands of years. Sesame oil appears in ancient Egyptian medical texts as a base for medicinal preparations. Ancient Babylonian women consumed sesame mixed with honey as a longevity food. The same sesame tahini preparation that appears on tables around the Mediterranean today was being made in essentially the same form thousands of years before the first verse of Scripture was written. Modern nutritional research has confirmed what those ancient cultures were observing through direct experience. Sesame seeds are exceptionally rich in lignans, the same class of antioxidant compounds found in flaxseed, but sesame contains unique variants called sesamin and sesamolin that have drawn significant research attention in their own right. Studies have found that sesamin supports liver health, helps regulate blood pressure, and demonstrates anti-inflammatory properties at the cellular level. Sesame is also one of the richest plant sources of calcium available anywhere, which is part of why it was so valuable in ancient diets that relied far less on dairy than modern Western eating patterns do. It contains meaningful amounts of iron, magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins, all in a form the body can absorb efficiently. Clinical research has shown that regular sesame consumption improves antioxidant status in the body, reduces oxidative stress markers, and produces measurable benefits for people managing high blood pressure. One study found that sesame oil used as the primary cooking fat over a period of weeks produced results comparable to a leading antihypertensive medication in reducing blood pressure. That finding surprised the researchers. It did not surprise the ancient world, which had been using sesame this way for thousands of years. Traditional preparation was whole seeds pressed into oil, ground into paste, or eaten raw and scattered over food. Every method delivers something different. Use all of them. Number 8. Dill seed, the herb that Jesus named in the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew 23, Jesus rebukes the Pharisees for something specific. He says they carefully tithe their mint, their dill, and their cumin down to the last seed while neglecting the weightier matters of the law. Read that slowly. Dill was being formally measured and offered as a temple tax. You do not build a religious tithing system around something that does not matter. Dill seed had genuine economic and medicinal value in the ancient world, and the people who measured it out to the last seed understood exactly what they were giving. Dill has been used medicinally for at least 5,000 years. Ancient Egyptian medical texts reference it as a treatment for digestive complaints. Greek physicians prescribed it for insomnia and hiccups. Roman soldiers carried it into battle. Medieval herbalists called it the herb of gladness. Every culture that encountered dill arrived at the same applications because the plant produces consistent, observable effects. The primary medicinal compounds in dill are volatile oils, particularly carvone and limonene, which have documented antispasmodic effects on the smooth muscle of the digestive tract. This is the mechanism behind the ancient use of dill water for colic, gas, bloating, and indigestion. It physically relaxes the muscle tissue that produces cramping and spasms. That is a real pharmacological action, not a folk remedy. Research has also found that dill extract demonstrates antimicrobial activity against several bacterial strains, anti-inflammatory properties, and measurable antioxidant activity. There is also emerging research into dill's potential effects on blood sugar regulation, with some studies suggesting it may support improved insulin sensitivity. Traditional preparation was seeds steeped in hot water as a digestive tea after meals, seeds added to breads and fermented vegetables as both flavoring and preservative, and dill water given to infants for colic. The Pharisees were not wrong to value it. The problem was only that they missed what was more important. Number 7. Fenugreek, the seed in every ancient medicine cabinet. Fenugreek does not appear by name in most English translations of biblical scripture, but it was one of the most widely used medicinal seeds in the entire ancient Near East, including throughout Egypt and Israel, and its presence in the medical traditions of that world is thoroughly documented. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri include fenugreek in dozens of preparations. It was found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. Greek physicians used it for digestive and respiratory complaints. Talmudic literature references it as a commonly cultivated plant. The seeds of the fenugreek plant are remarkable in their chemical composition. They contain a soluble fiber called galactomannan that behaves similarly to the beta-glucan found in barley, forming a gel in the digestive tract that slows glucose absorption, feeds beneficial gut bacteria, and removes LDL cholesterol from circulation before it can be reabsorbed. The effect on blood sugar is significant enough that multiple clinical trials have investigated fenugreek specifically for use in managing type 2 diabetes, with results showing meaningful improvements in fasting glucose and post-meal blood sugar response. Fenugreek also contains compounds called saponins that have been studied for their cholesterol-lowering effects, and diogenin, a steroidal compound that appears to support hormonal balance, particularly in women. 1. Traditional midwives across the ancient world used fenugreek to support milk production in nursing mothers, and modern research has confirmed that this use has a genuine physiological basis. Multiple studies have found that fenugreek supplementation increases milk volume in breastfeeding women through a mechanism that is now understood at the hormonal level. If you are finding this kind of content valuable, this is a good moment to hit the like button and subscribe. We release new videos every week, and there is much more coming that you will not want to miss. Traditional preparation was seeds soaked overnight to reduce bitterness and soften the hull, ground into powder and incorporated into bread and porridge, or steeped as a tea for digestive support. The ancient world did not need a clinical trial to understand what fenugreek did. They had generations of careful observation, and what they observed turned out to be right. Number 6. Caraway, the seed from Isaiah that healed the gut. In Isaiah 28, the prophet describes the work of a threshing farmer with striking precision. He beats out caraway with a rod and cumin with a stick, because he handles each one according to its particular nature. That level of agricultural and botanical specificity in a prophetic text tells you that caraway was not a passing detail. It was part of the functional knowledge base of daily life in ancient Israel. Caraway has been found in archaeological excavations across the ancient Near East dating back thousands of years. It was a medicinal plant before it was a culinary one, used specifically for digestive complaints, respiratory conditions, and as an antimicrobial agent in food preservation. Ancient physicians understood that certain seeds slowed the spoilage of food while simultaneously supporting the health of the people who ate it. Caraway was one of the most reliable of these. Modern research has identified the primary active compound in caraway as carvone, the same volatile oil present in dill, which explains why both plants produce similar digestive effects. Caraway has been studied in controlled clinical trials for irritable bowel syndrome, with results showing meaningful reductions in bloating, abdominal discomfort, and irregular bowel habits. A combination of caraway oil and peppermint oil has been tested against pharmaceutical antispasmodics and found to perform comparably in managing functional dyspepsia. That is a finding that most people in the modern world are completely unaware of. Caraway also demonstrates antimicrobial activity against several foodborne pathogens, which explains its historical use as a preservative in fermented foods and breads. The ancient practice of baking caraway seeds into bread was simultaneously improving flavor, extending shelf life, and delivering digestive support to everyone who ate it. Traditional preparation was seeds baked into bread, added to fermented vegetables, steeped as a tea for digestive discomfort after heavy meals, or chewed directly after eating. The farmer in Isaiah who handled caraway with such precision knew what he was working with. Number 5. Black seed. The seed that the prophet said heals everything but death. There is a saying recorded in ancient Islamic medical tradition that directly parallels the biblical world's engagement with this seed. It says that black seed is a remedy for every disease except death. That claim sounds extraordinary until you look at the research that has accumulated around Nigella sativa over the past several decades and realize that the ancient world, as so often, was simply paying closer attention than we gave them credit for. Black seed, also known as black cumin or kalonji, grows natively across the Mediterranean and the ancient Near East and has been used medicinally in that region for at least 3,000 years. Seeds have been found in archaeological sites throughout Egypt, including in the tomb of Tutankhamun. Ancient physicians used it for respiratory complaints, digestive issues, immune support, and as a general tonic for overall resilience. The primary active compound in black seed is thymoquinone, and it has been studied across an extraordinary range of conditions in modern clinical research. Studies have found anti-inflammatory effects, antioxidant activity, antimicrobial properties, including activity against antibiotic-resistant strains, and potential anti-cancer mechanisms that have drawn serious attention from oncology researchers. Clinical trials have demonstrated improvements in asthma symptoms comparable to pharmaceutical bronchodilators. Others have found meaningful reductions in blood pressure and blood sugar in people with hypertension and diabetes. The breadth of effects is unusual even by the standards of well-studied medicinal plants. The key compound, thymoquinone, appears to modulate multiple biological pathways simultaneously rather than targeting a single mechanism. This may be why the ancient observation that it addresses such a wide range of conditions turns out to have a biochemical explanation. Traditional preparation was seeds pressed into oil, ground, and mixed with honey for respiratory support, or soaked in water and consumed as a tonic. The claim made about this seed in the ancient world was large. The research that has followed is beginning to understand why. Number 4. Cumin, the sacred seed that Jesus named and ancient physicians treasured. We return to Matthew 23 for the seed that appears there alongside dill. Cumin, tithed to the temple, formally measured, economically valued. This was not a flavoring. This was a medicine first, and every major ancient civilization that cultivated it understood it that way. Ancient Egyptian medical texts document cumin in more than 20 separate preparations. Greek physicians prescribed it for digestive complaints, eye conditions, and as a general tonic. Ayurvedic medicine placed it at the center of digestive health protocols. Independent cultures on multiple continents with no connection to one another arrived at the same conclusions about the same seed. The active compounds in cumin are volatile oils, primarily cuminaldehyde and cymin, which have documented effects on digestive enzyme production, bile secretion, and gut motility. These are the mechanisms behind the traditional use of cumin for bloating, gas, and indigestion, and they have been confirmed in modern pharmacological research. But here is what surprises most people. A 2014 randomized controlled trial found that participants taking cumin supplements lost significantly more body fat and reduced their body mass more effectively than the control group through a mechanism involving insulin sensitivity and fat metabolism regulation. Ancient practitioners prescribed cumin for digestion. Modern research found it was simultaneously reshaping how the body processes and stores fuel. Cumin is also nutritionally significant in a way most people overlook. Less than a single teaspoon provides approximately 20% of the daily requirement for iron. In a world without iron supplements, without fortified foods, without pharmaceutical interventions for anemia, cumin was genuinely correcting iron deficiency in the people who ate it daily. Ancient midwives across the Mediterranean and the Near East routinely included cumin in recovery diets for women after childbirth. They did not know the mechanism. They observed the outcome. Women who ate cumin recovered their strength more reliably, and now we understand exactly why. Traditional preparation was whole seeds dry roasted and added to bread, stews, and legume dishes, ground seeds steeped as a tea for digestive complaints, combined with coriander and other warming spices as a daily digestive blend. Number 3. Coriander seed, the seed that gave ancient Israel its reference point for something miraculous. Pay very close attention to this one because the detail is hiding in a place most people skip past entirely. In Exodus 16, God provides manna to the Israelites wandering in the wilderness. The people had never seen anything like it. And when they tried to describe it, the reference point they reached for was this. It was like coriander seed. White, small, round. Then in Numbers 11, the people describe manna again and make the same comparison. Coriander seed. Think about what that means. These people needed a visual reference for something they had never encountered before, something that existed outside their experience. And the image their minds reached for immediately and naturally across two separate accounts was coriander seed. This was not a peripheral plant. It was so visually embedded in their daily existence that it became the anchor for describing the indescribable. Every part of the coriander plant carries distinct and separately documented medicinal properties. The seeds and the fresh leaves, which most people know as cilantro, contain different phytochemical profiles and work through different pathways. For the seeds specifically, the essential oils have documented antispasmodic effects on the digestive tract, stimulate the secretion of digestive enzymes, and reduce intestinal fermentation that produces gas and bloating. These effects have been confirmed in clinical research and explain the traditional use of coriander seed across ancient Egyptian, Ayurvedic, and Middle Eastern medicine simultaneously. Separate civilizations, no coordination, same conclusion. But what most people do not know is that coriander also carries anxiolytic properties, meaning it measurably reduces anxiety through a defined neurological mechanism. Studies have found that coriander extract affects GABA receptor activity in the brain, the same receptor family targeted by pharmaceutical anti-anxiety medications. The effect is real enough that several research teams are actively investigating it as a direction for natural anxiety treatment. Research on blood sugar regulation has also found that coriander seed extract helps stimulate insulin secretion and supports healthier post-meal glucose levels. Traditional preparation was ground seeds incorporated into bread, stews, and meat dishes, seeds steeped as a tea after heavy meals, and fresh leaves used as a finishing herb for flavor and digestive support. The people who needed a comparison point for something miraculous chose coriander because it was already in their hands every day. Number 2. Mustard seed. The smallest thing Jesus used to describe the largest power. In Matthew 13, Jesus says that the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which is the smallest of all seeds, but when it grows, it becomes the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree so that the birds come and perch in its branches. This parable has been read theologically for 2,000 years, but the specific choice of the mustard seed was not arbitrary. Jesus chose it because everyone listening knew exactly what a mustard seed was, what it looked like, and what happened when you planted it. It was one of the most familiar seeds in the ancient world. Mustard has been cultivated for food and medicine across the ancient Near East, Egypt, and the Mediterranean for more than 5,000 years. Seeds have been found in ancient Greek and Roman burial sites. Hippocrates prescribed mustard preparations for muscular pain and respiratory conditions. Ancient Indian physicians documented its use in Ayurvedic texts. The same seed was being used medicinally by independent civilizations simultaneously because it produced results you could observe. Modern research has identified the primary active compounds in mustard seeds as glucosinolates, which break down into isothiocyanates when the seeds are crushed or chewed. These isothiocyanates are among the most studied natural compounds in cancer prevention research. Population studies have consistently found that high dietary consumption of plants from the mustard family is associated with reduced rates of several types of cancer, and laboratory research has identified mechanisms by which isothiocyanates can inhibit the growth and division of cancer cells. Mustard seed is also rich in selenium, magnesium, manganese, and omega-3 fatty acids. Studies have found anti-inflammatory effects, cardiovascular benefits, and measurable improvements in metabolic markers in populations that consume mustard regularly. Traditional preparation was seeds ground into paste for topical application on sore muscles and joints, seeds added whole to pickled and fermented preparations, and ground mustard incorporated into dressings and sauces. The smallest seed Jesus chose to describe the largest power turned out to be doing something proportionally large inside the human body. That choice was never accidental. Number 1. Pomegranate seed. The seed that decorated sacred temples and that modern oncologists are actively studying right now. When researchers study the pomegranate, they are not studying the juice. They are not studying the rind, though the rind carries extraordinary medicinal concentration. They are studying the seeds, the small jewel-red seeds that fill every chamber of the fruit, that were pressed and eaten and offered and carved into stone in temples and woven into priestly robes throughout the ancient world. The pillars of Solomon's temple were decorated with 200 carved pomegranates. The hem of the high priest's robe was bordered with them in blue, purple, and scarlet. In ancient Israelite culture, every design element in sacred space carried meaning. The pomegranate was chosen again and again because generation after generation, people watched what happened to those who ate it regularly and what happened to those who did not. What they observed without the language of modern science was so significant that they built it into the architecture of the most important spaces in their civilization. Pomegranate seeds contain a compound called punicic acid found in almost no other food source on Earth. They also contain a class of polyphenols called elegitannins, which gut bacteria convert into compounds called urolithins. Urolithins have become one of the most exciting areas of active research in longevity science because they appear to activate a cellular process called mitophagy, in which the body identifies damaged mitochondria, breaks them down, and replaces them with healthier, more functional versions. Mitochondria are the energy source of every cell in the body. As they deteriorate with age, fatigue increases, muscular strength declines, and tissue resilience falls across every organ. Restoring mitochondrial function at the cellular level is not a minor effect. It is central to how biological aging unfolds. Clinical research on pomegranate has found reductions in blood pressure, improvements in arterial elasticity, lower levels of LDL cholesterol oxidation, and reduced markers of systemic inflammation. Studies specifically examining pomegranate seed oil have found anti-cancer properties significant enough that oncology researchers at major institutions are actively investigating the mechanisms. The seed that decorated Solomon's temple. The seed pressed into oil in the ancient world for both food and medicine. Modern science is only now beginning to understand the full picture of what those ancient observers already knew. Here is what I keep returning to after walking through every one of these seeds. Not one of them required a laboratory to discover. The antimicrobial properties of black seed, the digestive mechanisms of cumin and coriander, the anti-cancer compounds in mustard, the cellular renewal effects of pomegranate seeds. All of it was identified by people working with nothing but sustained, careful observation across generations. They planted, they ate. They watched what happened. They passed that knowledge forward through trade routes and temple rituals and agricultural practice, and eventually through the pages of the most widely read book in human history. Modern science has not discovered these benefits. It has confirmed them, one clinical trial at a time, and it keeps arriving at the same places that ancient observers arrived at without any of the equipment. That should change the way you think about the seeds sitting in your kitchen right now. If this video gave you something to think about, drop a comment below. Tell me which seed surprised you most. Was it the mustard seed carrying cancer-fighting compounds that researchers are studying in oncology labs right now? Was it coriander reducing anxiety through the same brain receptors as pharmaceutical drugs? Or black seed with a claim made thousands of years ago that modern research is still working to fully explain? I read every comment on this channel. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on the notification bell. We post every week and we are just getting started. The next video goes even deeper. You do not want to miss it.